cloaks, grab your sword, grab your dice, and the bard grabs his lute because, come, oh ye friends, it's that time again for all your podcast needs. Movies, games, and TV. Toss a coin to your caster, oh voices of plenty, oh voices of plenty, oh yes.
Whoa, yes. We're here to talk D&D.
D&D Honor Among Thieves, specifically.
Yep.
Yes.
How you guys been since we last spoke, though?
What have I done this week? Went for some nice walks. Spring has finally sprung, so daylight, things are blossoming. Rain, also quite a lot of rain and mud. So I've been trying to get outside more. I've been watching a BBC drama called Blue Lights, which is about modern day policing in Northern Ireland, and it is harrowing. What else have I been rewatching episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine for less harrowing police.
Such a great
things.
show. Such a great show.
Yeah, it's good.
Have you seen the final season yet?
Yes, I have.
Watched it all.
I thought it had a great ending in my opinion.
It was good.
Like, even, I love the fact that during COVID, and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, they were like, we can't use these scripts. So they literally just tossed out all the work they'd done and rewrote the entire script.
Yeah.
I know I would have liked maybe a couple more episodes and maybe a couple more conclusions to a few loose ends, but I think for what they could do, I think it tied up quite well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I enjoyed it.
No, I definitely agree on that. What season are you watching at the moment?
I'm starting with season 1 again. I have watched it all. It changed a lot when it changed network. So it went from Fox to MSNBC, didn't it?
Yes, and I think it helped it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I will say, though, to be fair, my favourite episode is from season 5, I believe, The Box, where it's just literally Jake Holt and the criminal in the box, Sterling K. Brown, and it's just like the interrogation of like the murder and everything, and you get the damn. I was like, oh no, God, what was it? Oh, I can't remember. But basically, he makes him say quote something 3 times to be like an awesome response, basically.
Oh, yeah, right, that one.
Basically, this guy thinks he's really intelligent, but Jake proves just like how much that's my favorite episode of the show, in my opinion. I don't know what it is about it, but yeah. But obviously you're here today, people, for the lovely times, and before we get to that, I realise I haven't actually asked James what he's been up to as well. Is it more Midnight Suns?
A little bit, yes, and other things which contribute to a general sense of doing F-all. So...
F all people stands for fuck all people.
Yeah,
fuck all indeed.
Me trying to be polite because I'm the most polite person who's anybody's ever known who doesn't swear at all.
Yes.
So and fuck off to anybody who says otherwise.
Even though he's got a bit of whiskey going on right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, whiskey.
Yeah. No.
Podcast about it.
No. Well, it's the first time we've had. Well,
we haven't started doing food episodes yet.
This is true. Yeah, there is a possible food episode in the future. We'll discuss that down. Like we may do like one of those gaming movie cookbook episodes where they have like themed like.
I'm just taking inspiration from Matt Pat and his Video Empire because he's got the food channel.
But no, for myself, Resi 4, pretty much. I've just finished rewatching Suits again because I love that show, and I'm contemplating watching Succession finally. Because I've heard it's brilliant.
I don't know much about it, to be honest.
No,
it's a black comedy with Brian Cox in it, like the house of this like mega media family. But it's like they're out to get each other sort of thing, and it's like a black satire comedy type thing. So yeah, HBO show. So seems quite well. It's its final season now. It's only 4 seasons, so gonna give that a watch. But yes, people.
I've just come up with a really crazy idea. So a lot of movies come up with. It's just based on the fact that Brian Cox is also the name, not just the name of an actor, but it's also the name of a scientist in Britain. So, but big names generate big things. They should just find some randomer off the street who's like who's called Nick Cage, for instance,
and then put him in a triple A
put him in the thing, advertise. Don't show the guy on the advertisements, but just say Nick Cage is in the film. And yeah, it's a Nick Cage, it's just not the Nick Cage.
honestly, when you said...
feel you would get a lawsuit.
Well, you can't. I mean, we're not...
Yeah, technically you are advertising just the name as the actor there, like who's in it.
Exactly.
Like that would be an interesting advertising lawsuit. I mean, you might win it. There's no saying you wouldn't, but someone will definitely sue.
But it's not. It's literally not false advertisement. James is right. It's not false advertisement.
They should make the whole cast or having different people with famous names.
I mean, it's like that whole, like, you know, with movies where they have like an actor come in it for 5 minutes, and when they put their name front and center for the movie.
Oh yeah, no, that's legit, but that's a worse fake out.
But that's the thing; they don't put their face on the poster and everything. It's just their name. It's the same. It's the same thing. Just put the person's name there. That's interesting.
I'd find it hilarious if I did that.
That'd be quite funny, to be honest. That I don't know how that would work out. That's actually quite good, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we could find out, I guess.
Jesus, that's good. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, you know, with us people here at NMI, we like to do trail off the podcast show for movies, TV shows, and video games. But yeah, this week we are giving you our review for the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie that was recently released at cinemas, produced by Paramount Pictures, and starring Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Regé-Jean Page, Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, Hugh Grant, directed by Jonathan Goldstein, Jonathan Francis Daly, also written by Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daly, and Michael Gillio. So, and story by Chris McKay and Mike Gillio as well. Coughing ahead of people. I've got someone rolled a 14 and gave me a cough. So yeah, obviously this movie has been in production for a little bit. The trailers came out around the same time as House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, and everyone was going, what is this film? What is this film? Like, it's coming out against 2 blockbuster IPs. Like, how is this going to work? Obviously, we had the 2000 movie with Jeremy Irons and Marlon Wayans. Like, it's got a lovely 1.7 on Metacritic that I watched a bad roast for recently. Jesus Christ, it's bad. Like,
I've not seen it. I've been in the D&D world for some time, and I have not seen it or even heard of it, to be honest. I'm surprised it is as recent as the year 2000. Like, I would have guessed they would have made a film in like the late 80s, 90s.
So we'll actually get onto the whole 80s aspect of it, because I feel like, you know, when it comes to the 80s, you know, like tropes, they do actually put some of that in this movie, which I think works out really well.
I was pretty big during the 80s, so that's understandable.
So just putting a trailer up, people in the background for the original Dungeons and Dragons 2000 trailer. But no, with this movie though, I love the fact that like it's definitely, the directors know the lore because they've played the game. You know? Yeah. And you could tell going into this film, we're going to get into it into detail, people, but when you go and see this film, like, I know bits and pieces of D&D, but as you guys played Dungeons and Dragons, you guys have a full campaign going yourself with James, the Dungeon Master of.
Yeah,
indeed. I mean, I'll be honest, I only actually got into D&D about 5 or 6 years ago, so I played in someone's campaign. I'll be honest, I was always a little bit sceptical about it, always kind of like, I'll be honest, I probably kind of ridiculed it for a few years, but when I actually played it, I realised actually this is actually really good. And yeah, I've been running my own campaign for the last 3 years. I mean, to me, D&D is it's a fun thing you can do with a group of friends and get together. I see it as collective storytelling with a bit of role-playing, kind of dice throwing, kind of probability and combat in it.
I mean, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, and obviously Dungeons and Dragons started off pretty much this entire RPG thing from the 70s, or was it it was the 70s or the 80s?
It was big in the 80s. I did look at this recently. I think it started very late 70s.
Yeah, because obviously other IPs came into this. Obviously, Cyberpunk,
Traveller, Dragon Age is also quite a big one.
Most big IPs. I bet even Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Starship Troopers. I know definitely has one.
Yes, definitely.
All these different IPs have them.
There's a lot. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing. The sort of tabletop RPG games, like people are still making their own ones. I think I have a friend who's making one based on ghosts at the moment. So.
And obviously, when it comes to like Dungeons and Dragons in recent years, we're actually going to be doing an episode on this, people, where, you know, why is Dungeons and Dragons had, or even just like tabletop games, had this huge boom in recent years. So obviously, you know, we'll probably talk about Critical Role, you know, the Vox Machina thing. We'll talk about like COVID, a big factor in that. You know, we'll probably get some other people in as well to have a discussion about it. But yeah. But for this film, though, you know, it was released on March 10th, March 31st, South by Southwest on March 10th. It's received positive critics from reviewers. Positive reviews from critics. Can't speak today, people. And yeah, let's just get into it. Like, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do our general, we're gonna do a non-spoiler review for the film, and then we'll get into the spoiler section at the end. So obviously, but yeah, let's start with James today. James, what were your initial thoughts of the film?
I fucking loved it. I really did. I mean, it was a lot better than I expected. I was expecting to kind of just be okay with it, but I actually really ended up really liking it. It's a fun. It's a very, very fun. It's probably quite family friendly, to be fair. It's quite a fun fantasy film. It's got quite a lot of heart to it as well, I found, and I really like the characters, and it was also quite faithful to a lot of things in the D&D. I changed some things which makes sense to do in a story, which you need to do, but where they could be faithful to D&D format, they were. I mean, get into more details later on.
It was okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, I know. I get the generally. I think it was trying to be too many things to too many people. Like, it was a classic. Try and please everyone. You end up pleasing no one. Like, every character is a call to a type of player in D&D, which, I mean, is absolutely fair enough. But it leads to kind of a bit of not flat storytelling by numbers. It was very middle of the road.
So other people have described that, though, and James might actually picked up on this possibly, and you may have as well, is that it may have been paid by numbers, like you knew what was going to happen, like how, you know, you think like these archetypes, like, because they're very. They stuck to the very basic D&D archetypes for this movie, pretty much. Like, I know the directors stated they wanted to do that because they wanted to introduce people, and then when they go forward, if they do go forward, they'll start branching off, essentially, and see where it goes from there. And also how, when you say paying by numbers and step by step, does that play into the fact that this is a, like, you know, you take turns type game? So because I know a lot of people have actually praised the film, they could actually look at the film and go, okay, that's where they failed on a roll. They've got a re-roll to play they've got a re-roll to do it. Like, you know, it's sort of like you could tell where they sort of did this, essentially.
It was more. So there's two ways of playing Dungeons and Dragons. There is paying large sums of money to Hasbro for the official packs and guides. So your owlbear pack, your spells pack. Or there's what I suspect a lot of people do, is the more homebrew, alternate world, less faithful to the source material, which I would have preferred, I think, because that's generally how I play D&D. I think I've done maybe one or two out of the book campaigns in 15 plus years of playing D&D and D&D like things. So again, for me personally, the fact that Dragonborns weren't the bards and backflipping and this sort of thing, it was a bit like,
yeah, for some reason,
I've probably got too much experience of D&D to actually get the full appreciation of this film, because it's kind of full, as you say, it's probably starting at.
Just to put some context for everybody who might be confused by Fergus saying backflipping, he has taken in my campaign to backflip everywhere to a point where I've had to make it a part of a campaign and introduce a sacred order of backflippers.
Yes.
How many like sessions are you into this now that you've actually created an order, basically?
2 years, 2.5 years, or something like that.
Yeah, it'll be coming up to 3 years by the time we finish it. We are close. We've been close to the end for about a year.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard this is actually how a lot of campaigns go. Like, they say they're close to the end, and then just something else just happens, basically. But like this film, to be honest, like a lot. You know, I mean, I think it's good because obviously, you know, you stated like a lot of people follow the homebrew method, but I think after the previous Dungeons and Dragons movie, which was a long time ago, and also how cinema has been very like serious for these type of genre films, so like, you know, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. This film is it's a light-hearted movie. Yeah, and also because I think you want to take your kids to see it and everything. Yeah, like it has to follow a more simpler story. I think to introduce it. I think at first.
Yeah. The thing is, I like the so-called simpler stories. I like the fact that it wasn't necessarily a big end of the world scenario. Yes, there was a tiny bit of that, but it's not end of the world, put it that way, and we'll get into it in the spoiler section. But I like
the big boss battle.
Big boss battle. But I like the smaller stakes, more personal stakes, because a lot of it is about his daughter and rescuing his daughter.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and how, like, you know, each character is very distinctive, which I did quite enjoy, and each character that you could feel the personality and great acting from pretty much every actor.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although, in all my praise, I do feel there were some characters on the main cast which could have been fleshed out better, and I will say the druid is the key one there, the tiefling druid.
Okay.
I mean, great in terms of the action, but and I think the acting's nothing wrong with the acting at all. But in terms of writing, I do feel that character could have been fleshed out more.
Because I have heard from people like they were a bit disappointed how the cast was very all human looking, because obviously I know D&D info, but I've heard tieflings are generally portrayed as like purple skinned. Like I've heard about this.
I'm not sure. I don't know if I played a campaign with a tiefling.
I think you might be right, but I can't remember. But I think you're right.
But there was no dwarf as part of their party. There was no dragonborn.
I think there's a purpose to why there wasn't a dwarf in the party, though. In my opinion, like I think like you had your barbarian, you had your bard, you had your paladin, which was, we'll get into him in a bit. You had your sorcerer, your druid, and you had your rogue to a point. I think if you had a dwarf there as well, I don't know. We've had a lot of dwarves in recent years.
The thing is, you're going from races. You're going from professions to races, or classes to races. But I'll give you on your point. I want to pick you up on that. So in terms of races, it's you've got a half elf, you've got a tiefling, you've got a human, and you've got a human. So yeah, we've got two human characters, don't they? Because I'm pretty sure. So you're right. But I suppose it's a way to kind of like, because if I don't know, I'm guessing less effort on the CGI, you don't have to do that quite as much. But they do have some interesting characters. Like, we can go into it later on.
I will go on to something similar. Speaking of that, like I think one thing I'd like to praise this film for is its use of CGI and practical effects in the film. Like it worked out extremely well. Like I think. Like when it came to certain characters, which we'll probably do in this talk in the spoiler section, because there's I thought the introduction to this movie was quite hilarious, to be honest, like, and not just because like my name sort of like comes up a little bit now, but no, like I just love how, and also there's a few special like additions to the cast where we're not going to talk about till later on, because I thought they were played in quite well. But let's just we've had a main talk about like how we felt about the movie in general, because obviously, have you guys seen the movie Game Night?
No, but it's on my list to watch.
Same directors. Yeah. Which was and these guys were supposed to direct the Flash movie that's coming out, and it's supposed to be more of a personal story. Sorry, a more personal story than the world-ending.
Yeah, which is what I like. As I say, I mean, as I said said before, my favourite Bond film is Skyfall because it's a very big departure from the usual end of the world domination stories, and it's more personal conflict.
So let's get into the cast itself. So obviously we have Chris Pine as Edgin Darvis, Michelle Rodriguez as Holga Kilgore, Roger Jean Page as Zenk Yendar, Justice Smith as Simon Amar. Sophia Lillis as Doric, a tiefling druid, who James briefly mentioned. Hugh Grant as Forge Fitzwilliam. Chloe Coleman as Kira Davies, the daughter of Edgar, Chris Pine's character. Daisy Head as Safina. And Jason Wong as Dralis. Obviously, we have a few other characters in the movie, but we'll save them for the spoiler section. So, how did you guys have how did you feel about the cast in general? Did have any standouts to you at all, or?
Yes, actually, I actually really like the Simon the Sorcerer. I liked him. I thought he was really good.
I mean, in regards to how he had a journey, basically.
I just thought the actor was. When you're talking about the acting, I thought the acting was great. But yeah, I mean, more of a silly character, and that's kind of that's the kind of thing that I like. But there was a journey, there was a real arc to that character as well. So you're absolutely right. One of the more fleshed out characters of the main cast, certainly, perhaps the most fleshed out between him and the main and Chris Pine's character, the main character. I say both those had more fleshed out arcs, and yeah, I mean he's a source of a lot of comic, a lot of comedy. I would say Simon the Sorcerer character. So
okay, Fergus yourself.
Yeah, Hugh Grant's pretty good in it as the villain.
I wanted to see more of Hugh.
Yeah, he needed a bit more fleshing out. Really, he got quite a lot. It's probably quite a lot going on.
I mean, whatever scene he's in, though, he's just sort of he's a massive presence. Whatever scene he's in, though,
yeah, definitely. He didn't need too much more, but a little bit more would have been good. Let's see. Michelle Rodriguez, pretty good. Very much your archetypal barbarian character.
Who has a penchant for a certain type of character. We will talk about that in
the
section.
That yeah, that was funny. Potentially could have a bit more fleshing out of exactly how she came to be where she was as a character. But it certainly was, good for the film. Who else have we got? Sophia Lillis, transforming into all of those animals. She was good. She was. Again, probably needed quite a few more stakes as a character to work with in the film to really do herself justice. But I quite enjoyed her transforming into deers and other such animals.
There is a really fantastic one-shot sequence in this film which I thought worked out quite well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which is the scene you're on about.
Yeah, she transforms into all of the animals.
Yeah, we won't go into that too much until we'll go into that spoiler section more. But for me, I've been listening to a lot of podcasters talk about all the characters that film, the archetypes and everything, and how the paladin in a group is always very straight and narrow, and he's always the good pathway and everything. And I've heard that a lot of people. What's that?
Usually.
Yeah, well, usually it's the usual case, and how Reggie Jean Page literally walked a straight line in the good path. We'll get into the spoiler section. Yeah, how he's straight on the straight and narrow path, and how he portrayed a very he had a good comedic tone in how he just didn't understand humor and sarcasm, and a lot of people compared him to Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah,
similar stick in terms of not understanding that, but also very different characters.
Yeah, no, and also I actually really enjoyed Chris Pine as Edgin. I actually really liked him, because I've read that how they were originally writing the character as more of a serious character, and Chris Pine was no, make him comedic. He's not the he's.
Yeah, he's a bit more Star-Lordy.
I think that was neat. What bards are? I've heard
100% neat. I didn't know. Did you say that he was originally written as a serious character?
I've read places that he was written more as a more serious character.
If that's the case, they made the right decision by changing that, because it's the comedy which really sells it. And one thing, don't derail it too much, but one thing I have seen other reviews actually about this film, and I agree with, is that unlike the recent Marvel films, the comedy doesn't derail it. The comedy kind of like
enhances it.
It's not,
and it flows better.
Yeah, it's not jokes for the sake of jokes. Yeah.
Oh, there is one. We'll go into this specifically in the spoilers. There is one spell sequence in this film which I was pissing myself laughing at. I think you guys know the spell exactly going on about. It's towards the end of the movie where the group's together.
Okay.
And it's where like something starts happening and whatnot while the spell's cast in. Yeah, Fergus. Right. That just had me laughing so much. Yeah. And also, the CGI fit was really well done in my opinion. But yeah, I think like, you know, a lot of people think like, you know, your fantasy heroes have to be like all extremely masculine and like, you know, all that stuff. But bards are known as like the, you know, the driving, you know, think about The Witcher. I've heard about this on another podcast. Think about The Witcher.
Yep.
When you think about The Witcher, as soon as you hear Geralt, who's the second person people talk about in The Witcher?
Roach, his horse.
Okay, fair play. Yeah,
I was going to say Yennefer.
Okay, so, to be honest with you, like I think a lot of people Jaskier,
Dandelion or Jaskier is what I knew that's what you're going with. But yeah,
and even in Vox Machina, you know, the bard is seen as like one of the main, you know, main points in that as well. Like, you know, and he has some good storyline. Have you guys seen Vox Machina, the Legend of Vox Machina show?
No.
I really recommend it. It's really good. Okay. Like, and obviously
what's it on?
Amazon Prime.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's 2 seasons out now. It's 12 episodes each. So yeah, it's really fun. I
know it's based on Matt Mercer's Critical Role.
Yeah, it's literally their first campaign, and they're going on to the Mighty Nine next. It's already confirmed. So yeah, I believe they've said like they've signed a deal with Amazon to do like pretty much the entirety of the campaigns they've done, which is and they actually expand it outwards from that.
Nice.
While I remember, Magic the Gathering have produced hero cards for all of the main characters of the hero party for the film.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's Google it. There's some interesting cards out there.
We're going to Google.
Gathering.
In this now. Oh yeah, shit. Okay. This is
we're just hero pack. Yeah,
we're looking at the thing now. Oh, we're actually looking at the prequel comic for some reason. But yeah, no, this is great to be honest. Like, you know how.
There's a lot of tie-ins. Hasbro's had a lot of influence in this film because it's very good at mentioning its own properties and licensed products. Baldur's Gate gets mentioned a lot as well.
I mean, I think it's great though, because obviously, you know, with the creators of this film, like, you know, having a major passion for this IP, and then you know, seeing the characters they've created essentially flip back into, you know, the IP itself.
Yeah,
I think that's great. That's brilliant. Yeah, but let's head back to the movie. So Michelle Rodriguez, I thought was like really fun in the movie. Like, I actually really enjoyed her character. Again, we'll talk about her penchant for certain, you know, in proclivities in a bit. Justice Smith, I definitely agree with you, James. Like, he was great in the film. I know he's in the recent Jurassic World movies as well. Like, he's an up-and-coming actor. Like Sophia Ellis, I thought she was good. I do agree. Like, maybe she, you know, if they do another one, if they do with this, stay with this cast, because I've heard that people have said it would be good if they just do an anthology for each movie, so different like characters for each movie. Do you reckon they do that?
I think it's more likely that they're going to take the already printed campaign books, so things like Curse of Strahd will be a film.
But as in, like, do you reckon they'll stick with this cast or do a new cast?
Yes, I suspect they will. It'll be
or
quite
at least
hard.
Some of them.
Yeah, it'll be quite hard to.
I think they will, and I don't agree with Fergus. I think they'll go more homebrewed route in terms of the story, with maybe paying some homage to it, because I don't think this film had anything to do with any of the campaigns, as far as I'm aware. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think it in itself is an additional campaign. But...
No, it felt like like a homebrewed campaign, and a good one in my opinion. I mean, it's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not a great film. It's an enjoyable film, and it's it's a good enough story for what you want from a fun fantasy film.
So this is interesting. Just reading up on this, they're actually doing a spin-off TV show.
Of course they are.
With an 8-series run. So, but I mean,
8 series.
8 episodes. Sorry,
I was going to say, wow, that's a huge investment.
But I mean, it could work out really well. Who knows?
Yes, they've very obviously got the money from somewhere to really push this, and it's a good way to connect to people, to get more people playing your game, especially if you are pursuing a premium subscription model.
It is for Paramount Plus as well, so I bet it's they're trying to push. I mean, to be fair, this could be very good for Paramount, IP wise.
It'll certainly give them a lot of content and quite a big audience to tap into, so probably quite positive generally.
I mean, Amazon are really the only ones tapping into that at the moment in regards to D&D.
Yes,
obviously, with Vox Machina.
Yeah, it's yeah. In terms of directly D&D affiliated products, there's not a huge amount out there. There's a lot of inspired stuff.
Okay, so supposedly with an interview, it was never our intention to become involved to make this film franchise. Goldstein has commented that they will most likely continue with the character establishment on Among Thieves with the return to the D&D world. The audience knows them, you could jump into the plot more quickly. Yeah. And obviously we've grown... Okay, actually...
I agree with that,
yeah. Obviously, I do like in the film they mentioned... Because obviously D&D has a lot of things in regards to how it contributed to video games, massively in the RPG world. Yeah. Knights of the Republic, is literally based off the, the role-playing mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons, I believe, if I'm correct.
Yeah, there's a game in development at the moment, Celastra, which is pretty much a video game version of the 5e rule book. Yeah,
and obviously, Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate, which are all mentioned within the movie.
Yeah.
That's not spoilers. They're literally just locations mentioned. Well, no, because Neverwinter is literally in the movie.
Yeah.
Because obviously we won't go into that. We're going into the spoiler section more. But yeah, I just think the cast was brilliant. As soon as Hugh Grant was on the screen, plays the rogue. You're like, oh come on, guys! He's the rogue. He's automatically, going to be an arsehole in the movie, which he portrays very well. How did we feel about the flow? I know we've spoken about how the movie deals with very paint by numbers, cut by cut. But how did you feel the flow of them? Because I know we all spoke about the comedic tone, the flow of the movie, essentially.
Yeah, I think it worked quite well. Generally, as a end-to-end story, I think it worked quite well. I would have liked more exploration or a bit of extra detail for some of the characters and some of the locations to contextualize things.
But it is a 2-hour film though already.
It is already a 2-hour film, but it was fine.
So I agree with that. I feel there could have been a bit more. Some of the characters could have been fleshed out a bit more. Maybe if they do a sequel, they have the opportunity to do that. However, one thing I really did like about the film was how everything tied together neatly at the end, how multiple strands came together, and I really liked it. Again, I think the flow of the film and the flow of the plot threads of the film was really good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think as it was just mentioned from the creators there, how they'll stick with the characters going into the next movie. It'll probably give them time to establish, because it could be a case of specifically Michelle Rodriguez, Sophia Lillis. I think those could be the characters which are sort of expanded in the next movie, because obviously we know their characters, we know a bit of their backstory, but obviously Chris Pine, Justice Smith, Hugh Grant, those characters have sort of been explained to a point essentially by the time this film ends, and we'll talk about more in the spoiler section specifically between Simon and someone else, but. Justice Smith's character, but I think Michelle Rodriguez and Sophia Lillis, who are the barbarian and the tiefling druid, could be explored more in the next movie, and I think that would work out quite well. And I do think that they will probably stick to, at least for the next one, I think how they'll probably start it'll probably be a mix essentially. They'll stick to the main path, but then they'll start like cutting off into their own thing essentially, sort of like, you know, see how the audience is gonna feel
prequel TV miniseries is for each character, sort of.
No, they're not going to do that. There's no point, because I think this film we won't spoil it, but I think this film pretty much establishes, you know, some of the characters' origins quite well very quickly. Like, you know who this character is, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, well, Holga Kilgore, you could definitely do a miniseries of her falling in love and spoilers.
Yeah, so there is a love discussion here and her proclivities, but we'll get into that more in the spoiler section.
Also, Doric, like,
that's Sophia Lillis' character.
Sophia Lillis. They really skate over the fact that what's exactly happening to her people and why she has to defend her land. Like,
good introductory scene, but nothing else is explored there 100% again.
At all. Like, she doesn't even interact with any of the other members of her tribe who she is next to.
Yeah, and she's a tiefling, and there's reference that people don't like tieflings, which is a part of D&D, but then that's never brought up again after that.
Yeah.
Is that the whole, like, obviously, in The Witcher, how the elves are looked down upon, and is essentially that sort of thing?
It's not so much for look. I think it's more kind of like fear than anything, because I think people think they're like demons or have demon ancestry. I can't remember, but
they do have horns.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, like, well, you know, a lot of people in this world are kind of, you know, their images are not stuff we really should comment on, to be honest. But in regards to Regé-Jean Page's the paladin character, Zen Kiendar, do you think more could be done with him? Or do you think he's a character that could basically just weave in and out?
I think the latter myself.
Yeah, you couldn't really do a standalone with him.
Not standalone, but I think like more like you could, like how Drax is like the very dry character, but he became the very comedic character in how this movie.
I will be honest. As much as I like this film, I would say that there's more character behind Drax than there is behind this one. I do feel that he's more as he is for the comedic side of things, and there's less. There's not as much depth as it could be to the character.
But if you go back and watch the first Guardians movie, could you say it's the same parallel and how like we've come to love Drax over movies and everything?
No, because I think even in the first film, Drax had more depth to his character than.
Mind you, he had more time, because we can say you know Regé-Jean Page's character is in specific parts of this movie, but he isn't in the entirety of the movie.
Yeah, that's true. But I just think the general shtick with how he's presented is more done for comedy. I don't see that particular character being developed more. I could be wrong, but that's just how I see things.
Yeah, he'll turn up occasionally for convenient narrative reasons, like, oh, he knows the location of this thing, or oh, he knows how to get into this secret cave, or whatever.
That's actually something I want to come on to. So obviously, you know, we spoke about how like you guys have played Dungeons and Dragons more than me. I've played it a little bit now, and obviously know the video games over the years. How did you feel about their inclusion? So I've heard a lot quite smoothly of how they included a lot of Dungeons and Dragons lore with stuff that some people who obviously, if you know, don't know the lore, you wouldn't really recognize, but people who do know the lore would love it, and it doesn't shove it in your face, basically.
No.
The official lore, which is, again, like, because I've been playing homebrew so much, I'm not overly familiar with the official lore, but, like, it is Hasbro mandated official printed by your books lore.
You're really against the print. You're really against the print.
Well, so it's worth mentioning that prior to this movie, Hasbro pulled some quite hostile moves towards the community at large, which prompted a movement to boycott this film. I don't know if things were resolved particularly well, because they did back away from their let's go elite premium, let's get rid of 90% of the player base. And
I did see
10%.
Tweets on this, how they're staying
with it. It was
with
extreme. The reaction from the community was massive as they pulled back from that. But I suspect to get these movies off the ground, they've taken on money and investors which are kind of pushing for a lot more return on their income, which has led to decisions like the new super premium $30 a month to get access to your D&D characters and play homebrew. Like, are you going to send in enforcers into people's kitchens while they play? Like, what is it upset the community quite severely. So I wouldn't be surprised if people are still boycotting this film. Also,
I don't think that'd matter for this movie. I genuinely don't think of it, because I think, like, when I look back on this type of movie, we have do you remember Aragon, the dragon riding movie? And
yeah.
I'm talking like fantasy movies where they're sort of like they're a bit more lighthearted,
Yeah,
and
it's not the movie in itself; it's more the general direction of the Dungeons and Dragons all-encompassing franchise.
But that's what I mean, though. It's like, I think this film is more, it's going to do well because of the general audience.
Yeah.
How this can make quite a bit of money because of that.
But are those general audiences going to get themselves... they're talking about making AI Dungeon Masters as well as part of this premium pack. We'll get onto AI later, I'm sure.
No!
Yes, I know. Like,
against AI, sorry.
Your average person is not going to sit down for 2.5 years and make someone be DM for them for two. Being a DM is a full-time job. That is
it is
a really underrated
fucker
thing.
Like I am, who's found a way to do it. So
there are tools.
It's called improv.
Well, yeah.
So what he's saying is, come to James on the podcast for all your half-baked
dungeon master.
No. I mean, when I first started a campaign, it was the first campaign I've ever run. It was a lot of work, and then I worked out a way to make it less work, like maybe like a couple of hours a week tops. And again, it comes back to what I'm saying: it's collective storytelling. You have an idea as to where the story's going to go. Kind of. A certain amount of guiding, but with a way to allow everybody else to move the plot around. So it's nothing set in stone. But you might know when to kind of, for instance, you might have an idea there's going to be a particular battle. In which case, you prepare a battle map, you prepare the characters. You might have a few strands of stories which you think may happen in that. You prepare for that, but in a way which is fluid, and you can improv.
So let me bring it to you on this, though. This film, I was thinking about it the other day, this film reminds me of, like, slight 80s fantasy action movies, like Willow and, like, Neverending Story, and, like, all those movies back in the day that sort of had, like, they had the drama, they had the action, but they also just had the light-hearted effect and, like, the camaraderie, and I think that's what's going to draw people to the cinema. I think, like, obviously, the name talent, Chris Pine, Regé-Jean Page, especially for, like, Bridgerton, they're going to pull people, and Michelle Rodriguez for, like, the, the Fast and the Furious community. I will say that I do think, going off the casket, I do think she was one of the big standouts for me, like, in the movie. Like, I think she... Because a lot of people have seen her as, like, one of the more side characters, like, in the film she's been in.
She's not in a car. She at no point she is in a car.
And she was in Avatar, the first Avatar movie.
Yeah.
She was the pilot.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was whole things about trying to bring her back, and she was like, but I died a martyr. Like, spoilers for a 13-year-old movie. 14-year-old movie.
That's all right. I've got no interest in watching the Smurf films.
But, no, I think she was, like, one of the... Like, she had some really, like, good comedic scenes in this movie. She actually, like, showed emotion quite well. And also, she's one of the characters I'm definitely interested in seeing more. Because we've just discussed, out of the people we'd like to see more of, it's her character. And I think that shows in her acting and also her narrative and how we'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, I think out of all the characters and all of the actresses in this movie, I think she could hold her own in a mini-series.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Yeah.
Let's so obviously we spoke about the plot of the movie and how it flows quite well and everything. Obviously, probably to a very rigid standard. To Fergus's point, but so let's go on to the actual like special effects and like the practical effects in the movie. Like, I expected there to be a lot more CGI in this movie. There is CGI in the movie, used properly and right, but the use of practical effects, I think it definitely harks back to the old classic era.
Yeah, it's definitely not overdone. But like the situations they encounter don't necessarily need huge amounts of CGI. Like, you could practically make a dungeon. You don't need to green screen a dungeon to jump around. But I mean, some of the creatures they encounter are quite interesting, also quite well done. I don't know how much I can say really without spoiling things, but like dragons, there are dragons confirmed. Dragons are confirmed in this movie, and they're quite well done.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on that. And obviously, you know, there are characters who come into this movie. What's the race of the? Because there's a bird. Basically, there's like a, I don't know the race.
Cockcrow?
Yeah, I've heard like a lot of people wanted. That's a quite popular character in D&D, I've heard.
Well, it's a race. You can. It's two things. I mean, it can be. I think it started off as enemies, but you can also play as an Aarakocra in some of the expanded rule sets.
We won't get into that too much, but I feel that there was an extremely funny scene with that character. And I think like just the practical effects itself and how like the world felt lived in. Because how the use of like the environments was like how with the Lord of the Rings and everything felt lived in. You know, you could literally go to Hobbiton now, and I've read that like some of this film was actually filmed in the way the original Harry Potter was filmed, like Hogwarts. Like parts of this film were filmed there.
Ah, okay.
So, like, you know, using real sets really adds like an added layer of like depth to the movie, and just like it
helps the actors if nothing else. Like,
yeah, it really does.
How do you act in a completely green room that you can't see all of the things that are happening around you? How do you react?
I honestly don't know. But no, I think like this movie did it really well. I think like, you know, this movie had a $150 million budget, and I think the budget was used really well. Like, you know, I think it was great. There was nothing like where I looked at the CGI and went, "This is terrible CGI."
Yeah, no, it all fitted. Within the world and how it looked. So,
you know, because in recent years we've discussed about VFX and CGIs in movies and everything. And I think also it was fresh for this movie because it felt like there was a lot of love put into the actual art itself, basically. And you know, I've not heard anything about like, you know, how the VFX were done for this movie yet.
Yeah, no, I've not heard anything about frame rates or all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, high frame rates and all stuff like that. Again, you could just go into this movie and have a good time and really enjoy it. And I think that's just all needed.
Yeah.
But so, you know, we spoke about characters, the story, and the VFX. So I think this is definitely jumping. Obviously, we've got the TV show we've spoke about coming out soon. Like Paramount's doing a TV show, and obviously we've dropped talks about like where the films could go. We'll probably get into the more spoiler section in regards to where specifically we'd like it to go or what we'd like them to do. Obviously, I can't really, you know, go into that myself because I'm not a massive D&D person myself, but I think we're gonna wrap it up there, people, and do our final thoughts and reviews. So we're gonna go to.
We've got the spoiler section afterwards,
and then we got the spoiler section. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so we're gonna got the spoiler section afterwards. So I think I'm gonna have to hand it to James first today.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, if you are after just a fun fantasy film with a lot of heart, with some fun characters, which have a enjoyable dynamic, then I think you're really enjoying this film. And for me, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's not an amazing film, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time watching it.
I mean, 8 out of 10 is class is great though. Like,
I know, you know. But I really enjoyed watching it, so I'm going to give it that.
It was okay. I had quite a few. It was fun. It was quite fun, quite enjoyable. It's very entry level to D&D, which makes sense. You're not going to get anything massively special out of it. If you are into D&D, it's quite obvious where the producers are very much like, oh, why don't you get into this kind of D&D like property that we happen to. I'm giving it a 5. I'm going.
Oh shit!
I'm going straight down the middle of the road with this one. It has to be a 5.
Really?
It was enjoyable, but I didn't. It was.
You gave this movie a 5?
A lot of it makes me feel just a bit. I don't know how to describe it.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I thought we were getting. I literally Typed to my phone to off mic. I literally
what
typed
did you
to.
Guess?
Well, I literally typed to James Fergus 6. I was like, it's the standard 6.
It has to be a 5 because it's not as good as some of the other things they're given 6s to.
I can't believe you're about to do this to us.
Well, at least he admits that The Batman is a better film than...
The Batman is better than this film.
No, and I agree with that. I absolutely
had a lot of problems with The Batman.
By 1 point.
Yeah.
We have to understand. You think Uncharted was better than this?
Yes, I genuinely, and probably because I know less about the Uncharted series. I think it's probably my own knowledge of the whole thing. It just didn't. Me and this film missed each other.
I'm so sorry I missed you with your 5.
Yeah, pretty much.
I did not expect a 5, James. I did. That shocked me a bit.
Not expect a 5 from Fergus. No.
Yeah, I'm kind of speechless on that. To be
Shocking.
So, do you have any wrap up thoughts for the 5 or like? I guess not.
Without getting massively into D&D politics and stuff, if you want to get into D&D and you're happy giving Hasbro large quantities of money, by all means, go and watch this film and you might find it enjoyable. But if you're the sort of person who's kind of coming in to this and, this is a bit of an enjoyable fantasy movie, you might not go further and start your own D&D 2.5-year D&D homebrew campaign. But
you really against the whole homebrew thing, aren't you? Like,
I like the homebrew thing. Like, it's just the.
It's fine. We get it. It's okay. We're not sad at all.
No, there's just, I don't know. There's a lot of underpinnings of. Yeah, the film itself in isolation is probably okay. It's just very. I'd actually like you to come back to this film in maybe like a year or something, rewatch it and just give like a, it could be a case of. I don't know if that'll help. I'll just know more about D&D at that point.
That's fair. I mean, myself, I'm actually going to be with you, James, on this. I'm going to give it an 8 myself.
Nice.
So, I really enjoy this film. I obviously, for someone who's dipped his toes in D&D, I've done a few one-shots. Obviously, I was in your campaign for a little bit. For a little bit. So I got the mimic chest, and I understood the mimic chest, and I got like I do love in this film how we didn't really touch on it in the story really, but how they really do go into a board game like setting near the end of the movie, which I thought was quite interesting how they used that. Sorry, it's not homebrewed enough. It's fine. But no, I thought every character was charming in the movie. I thought each of them really acted their character really well. Their specific role extremely well. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes in the future, and if this cast does come back, I think we'll know within a month and a half time, if they are doing a sequel to this movie, because I think they'll want to get the sequel rolling soon.
I really hope this makes profit.
Yeah, one thing we haven't pointed out is we're currently looking at the budget versus current box office. Budget 150 million, box office currently 73 million.
But that is just after the first week.
Yeah. That is, yes. A lot of films definitely at least break even by the first weekend. It's diminishing.
No, a lot of films nowadays do.
Really?
No,
John Wick 4 managed it.
We're talking so this is a new property film as well.
Yeah, well, it's D&D though. Like, it's a massively known.
True, but the thing you gotta remember is that Marvel movies are struggling nowadays. DC movies are definitely struggling. I think also this plays into a factor of the cinema is just having a big struggle in regards to viewing at the moment. I think if this was put on Netflix or Amazon Prime, this would have been the highest level. I think one of the highest viewership levels.
He wouldn't have shone a light on Wednesday.
No, we're not talking billion level, but it would have been quite very high for streaming services. I think even when it comes there, but obviously 73 million for its first weekend.
Oh, it's a lot of money, but it's not 150 million.
But it's not making the Mario movie is coming out, and that is scheduled to make 223 million, but that's because that's Mario. That is one of the biggest IPs on the planet.
Yeah.
More than D&D, in fairness.
Yes.
Because it's been around longer. Well, no,
a little bit.
Actually,
not
it's probably
really.
later,
I mean,
actually.
equivalent. I mean, Mario is probably a bit more mainstream than D&D, but I mean, still though.
I think this is just like, when it comes to these IPs and properties, though, House of the Dragon, we always go into House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, all these properties, Harry Potter even. I think a lot of people are probably going to go see this film at some point. It may be like drips and drabs that comes out. I think this movie will do well on streaming, like extremely well. But I think this will definitely get a sequel, because also, the first John Wick movie, wasn't massive. It was only after like the cult following started building up for it that it pushed forward after that.
Yeah, I mean, this has got the backing of a pretty big brand with quite a lot of money, and they've got it's all about investment and returns with these people.
Possibly, but also I think you the way I see it is, if it came to a sequel to this film and if it was doing this, there'd be a bit more concern. But I think because it's the first venture, especially also, this is after the massive failure of the first movie. Like, they have to be very careful in how it goes forward. Like, I think that taking that into consideration would be
all-encompassing brand
a big
strategy.
thing as well.
Maybe they might throw more money at it. Let's hope it's not throwing.
I mean, if they're making a TV series spin-off as well from this,
yeah,
I
guess they're probably already invested in expanding the universe.
I mean, the recent Halo TV show that was on Paramount was mixed critic reviews, but they're still doing a second season of that because of the IP.
Yeah.
So I think how Netflix has The Witcher, all these massive properties, Amazon has Rings of Power. I think Paramount are looking at their their IP, Witcher. And Dungeons and Dragons is there. And they've got pretty much the biggest fantasy IP, for creatives essentially, outside of Lord of the Rings and everything. Lord of the Rings is obviously the king of all of them, but when it comes to this, I do think it will work out quite well. And as James has said, this has only been 1 week, it's been out. Actually, it's not even a week. We're recording this on Wednesday. The film came out last Friday, so it's been 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, historically, opening weekend was make or break for films. As you say, there's now streaming and such like. So it'd be quite hard to tell actual numbers versus returns, because you don't really get. I assume you don't get paid per numbers for things like being on Netflix. You just get a lump sum.
Possibly,
I don't know.
Possibly, I don't know that at all. But I think this is going to get a sequel. I definitely think this will get a sequel, because, I think for the star power alone, I think the story worked out quite well. I think people will continue just going to see this, and also when it comes because obviously with Paramount Plus, I don't know if they follow the same principle of the 45 days after the movie comes out in cinemas, like other places do.
So, yeah.
They'll probably look at the metrics there as well, because if the metrics balance it out, that'll be a factor for it as well. And I think that will actually draw people in as well. Maybe they didn't want to go to the cinema to see it, so they'll go to Paramount Plus to watch the movie.
Paramount Plus also, in terms of streaming services, is currently one of the more niche ones.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they wouldn't want people to. But then that would harm them. That can go either way, I feel.
I mean, you say niche, but they've got one of the biggest IPs on there. But people have to go and watch stuff.
Yeah, but
Star Trek.
Terms of competing with Netflix, Apple.
Yeah, but also they're brand new. They're not. I wouldn't call them
in
niche.
This iteration. Yes,
I want to call them niche to the point of small in regards to IPs. I'd call them basically how Amazon, Netflix being the biggest one. They've been around much longer. This is an Apple TV you could take into the same consideration. It just needs the IP.
Yeah. I'm a bit concerned about studio-specific streaming services, because it kind of limits the range of content you can put on the service somewhat.
You say that, but I think
some are broader than others. Like Disney's broad enough that it doesn't really matter, but Paramount's
Paramount are broad enough.
I mean, they're quite big, but they're not.
Paramount are massive.
Yeah, kinda.
they have one of the biggest TV shows, Yellowstone, is on there. I've heard that's worked out quite well. Star Trek, Halo, you have to go there to watch it on Paramount. A lot of Nickelodeon stuff goes there as well. All the Avatar animated properties go into Paramount.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so apart from the Netflix live action show, all the animated movies, the content coming out afterwards is going to Paramount. Paramount, SpongeBob. Let's just throw SpongeBob in there.
Yeah.
I think it's just they've only been out a year, or just over a year. And I think also Top Gun Maverick was on there. That did well for them.
Yeah. Yeah, you've just got to bear in mind they're competing against some pretty big boys out there.
But at the same time, I think this could work well for them in regards to... Because obviously...
It'll probably bring in some people.
Netflix and The Witcher, they've got that concern at the moment with how much longer can The Witcher go on Netflix because of Cavill leaving and...
Just deepfake Cavill onto...
Let's not
AI
attack
voice.
the actor.
No. They got rid of him, and that's their fault. But
no, he left.
Yeah. Well, yes.
I think that's probably a whole other discussion. We'll have to wait for the summer for The Witcher season 3.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes and how faithful we are to the books. So.
Not at all.
They said would be more faithful. They said in press releases it'd be more faithful to a book than
you've got to actually read the books.
Previous season.
I bet they're going to do a magic spell to change his face. I think that's how that's going to play out.
I bloody well hope not. Just my personal opinion. Don't acknowledge it. It's just I mean like that. I mean like in The Dark Knight when Maggie Gyllenhaal replaced the other
Katie Holmes.
That's the one, Katie Holmes. I don't think you need to acknowledge it. People understand that it's a different actor playing the same character.
True.
You don't need to acknowledge it.
Maybe, but we'll see. So obviously we went on a little bit of a tangent there at the end but I think I give this an 8 myself. James gives it an 8. Fergus gives it a 5. So this rounds it out to a
7.5, 6.
No, it's 7. I think
it's an 8 because we discount Fergus for it as an outlier.
No. Oh.
I do think this comes out as a 7, to be honest. Yeah. I think if I gave this a 7 myself, it would have been a 6.5. But I think because we balance out there, it's a 7.
It is a 7. I'm just on the math in my head.
Because it'd be about 6.75, but with the rounding up and everything, it'd be about 7.
It'd be straight 7, I believe.
So I'm trying to add a little bit more panache into my... I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah, right, people. We are now going to finish up the review section. We are now going to get into the spoiler discussion section. So you now have probably spend about 10-15 minutes on this because I don't think we have too much to spend on the spoiler section. But yeah, so you got your warning. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's talk about Bradley Cooper, who I did not expect to see in this movie one bit.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we only saw him a small while, he had a very little appearance in the film.
You got any fucking more to say there? At all? He plays a halfling, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Miss Kilgore is really into her short dudes.
I mean, kind of plays that, kind of works out well for them. Then I guess that I love the end. I love the end of the movie when they're getting celebrated, and she's like, "Oh, hello there."
Yeah, yes.
I mean, I'd like to know how that works.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say that. I was like,
though to be fair, though, we have to talk about the fact that he has a penchant for barbarian tall women as well. Kind of worked out well.
It works the other way round.
But I did not expect him to be in the movie. It was quite a surprising cameo, to be honest.
Yeah.
You could call it cameo, but if it's extended scene, cameos are much shorter. But
I mean, they did put a lot of time into in terms of adding to the backstory of Holger Kilgore, because they spent a lot of time on her backstory as she likes this short dude.
How did you feel about her being the one to be brought back? I think it was kind of obvious, to be honest, but I do like the fact that it played into the narrative of how she raised the kids. So.
Yeah, I think it made sense in for a story. So I personally like that. I thought it tied things up nicely. But I did think the death sequence was a little bit cringy. I mean, it's not as bad as The Dark Knight, but I did think it was.
They can be very hit and miss, though.
It was one step level.
It was pretty, again, quite a cliche. Oh no, we survived this battle, but oh no, I've got this thing that makes me dead. Dead. Sort of.
I did enjoy that final fight, though, of them all just going at the which we haven't really spoken about. Obviously, the Red Wizards of Thay are the main villains in this movie.
Yes, try and turn everyone into zombies.
Yeah, and obviously, Regis Jean-Page is a Thay as well. So, but obviously, he's an exile. He's an exiled Thay. Because he became paladin. But I really enjoyed the final fight because I love how they actually pulled everyone out of the Colosseum. I thought it was really smart how they got everyone out of that Colosseum.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, it's one of those right things in which I said earlier that I like the way it tied everything together. So they get everybody out of the Colosseum, out of the danger by bursting a hole in the hot air balloon and
a portal hole,
yes. And pouring all the treasure down. So basically giving the treasure back to everybody, which is hinted at earlier when he's forced to swear to the paladin that he would give the treasure back to the people.
Yes. They literally find the portal gun from Portal.
I was literally about to say this.
Yeah. It's like, we're defeated.
Isn't that tool in D&D though? I believe there's a portal staff in D&D though, if I'm correct.
I've never encountered it in my 15 years of playing.
I don't know. I haven't either. But
mind you, I guess
it's too convenient. It's pretty game breaking though.
Game break? Could you say it's homebrewed?
To be fair, there's a lot. There's
game breaking stuff you can buy in the official.
Okay.
I was going to say there's a lot. What Fergus just said, there's a lot of game breaking stuff in the official D&D, anyways.
So obviously, I wanted to discuss this very comedic moment with Regis Jean-Page's character, the Paladin. I was listening to another podcast that talk about how he's walks on the straight and narrow, and how there is that comedic line. There's a rock. Is he going to avoid the rock? And he's like, no, he's going straight over the rock because he's
he's the straight man.
Yeah, the straight man. I did actually quite that. I when I look back, I was like, fuck yeah, that's actually quite clever, to be honest, how they played that out.
Yeah.
And obviously, with Simon's character. I love the fact that literally it was a case of him overcoming his own, his confidence. He's building his confidence. He's overcoming himself, which I thought worked out really well in the movie.
Yeah.
And then he finally got his own dues against Safina, the Red Wizard, which I thought was a great fight sequence. Good hand wrestling match. I thought it was quite well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought the whole sequence was done fantastically, and I liked how that whole fight sequence ended. I thought it was really clever how they defeated the Red Wizard.
Yes, no, it worked out really well. I do want to go back to the beginning of the movie. I do have to say something. I do have a big love for Jonathan.
Oh, okay. That was the Cochran. I thought that was, again, another genius moment. I thought it was unexpected.
And I love how they tried to do it at the end of the movie as well, and they were like, "No, not this time, not this time."
Quite call back to it, yeah.
Oh, did you hear that they were going to be released in the film as well?
Yes.
I only caught that after speaking to. I was like, shit, they did actually say you were going to be acquitted and whatnot. I thought it was Oh, that's so funny. No, again, the practical effects for the Aarakocra, I can't even say it correctly. Aarakocra.
Yeah, okay. I've seen a video of him in full suit walking around set.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love the practical effects and obviously the puppeteers doing that and everything. I thought, the extreme the dragon race as well, how they because obviously
Dragonborn, yes.
Yeah, a lot of people love the Dragonborn and how they were slowly integrated into the movie, well, included in the movie as well.
Yes, as a Dragonborn player, I'm glad that there was at least one Dragonborn in the film.
I mean, I feel like because I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about how would you include these characters as main characters in the next one, and it said I think it's the practicality of having those characters in a movie, like having them a full on character throughout the entire movie might work, but you'd have to be very creative in it, or they could be characters you consistently come back to, like how Forge. Hugh Grant's character, he wasn't in the movie entirely, or Regis Jean-Page. They could be extended characters, but they wouldn't be in the film fully.
It could be an interesting one. It poses an interesting problem. Like, if you do shy away from using characters like Dragonborns in the main party, like there's a lot of non-human, cat people, dragon people. Or if you've got the extended character player guide creation list, there's a lot of very, very non-human characters you can play as. And if you're going to exclude all of them in favour of people who are basically human, occasionally with horns, you're gonna exclude quite a lot of people who pick these characters.
I want to see a turtle.
Yeah, I forgot about turtles.
I used to play a turtle.
Yeah,
a turtle.
Yeah, it's basically, well, it's like a turtle, but humanoid turtle. I'm going to say, but
so a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
It's basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
But that can work though. Like I think it just when it comes to the Dragonborn we saw in the film and the Arak Cochrane, the practicality of having those characters in long scenes doesn't work out as much.
I can see that definitely. It would look kind of like 1980s high fantasy, dark fantasy, sort that kind of dark fantasy puppet style you had back then, but probably more clunky.
So obviously, I love the fact that we could talk about it now, but that illusion sequence in the movie, I was pissing myself laughing at that sequence with Chris Pine coming up with the lute and everything, and then the spell starting to fail because I was reading how in D&D the sorcerer has to roll
concentration. If you get interrupted, the spell fails. Yeah,
and then literally in the movie it plays out that way, and how it seems like the concentration failed for the character because his foot got caught. How we spoke about earlier, and how you could watch this movie and see sequences rolls fail because certain things happen in the movie.
I mean, yes, it does follow the internal logic of D&D. I would be very surprised if it didn't. Although,
some films do that though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's true.
And also the sequence with where Michelle Rodriguez and Chris Pine's character are trying to break away, and then she's just annihilating all the soldiers, and he's like, "This step's really not working for me right now." Trying to cut his rope.
Yeah, he needed a dagger or something that he could just sort of cut himself free.
But I mean, they weren't meant to have that at that point, and also the bard is also. I think the bard is always supposed to be not always supposed to be. He's supposed to be the comedic element
in combat. Yeah, no, I know that.
That's fair, but no, I mean, do you guys have anything you want to talk about specifically from the movie, for spoilers?
I don't think enough is made to make Forge Fitzwilliam, aka Hugh Grant, seem like absolutely evil, because what he is doing to Doric's people. No, but right. So he's basically committing genocide against Doric's people. He's cutting down the wood, murdering her people.
I take it back from what I just said, but he's not.
And the fact is just sort of played off of, it's just Fopsy old Hugh Grant. It's he's actually committing genocide against these people.
So I'm going to counter that a little bit. It's not him committing genocide. It's the other. The
Red Witch,
Red Wizard. He's turning a blind eye to it he's kind of enabled it so he could get rich and turn a blind eye to it.
Like a con artist does. He has the other people do it for them, basically.
Yeah. I mean, he's not personally going down and murdering tieflings, but
actually, speak about the Red Wizard. I got to give it to Rajesh Page and Jason Wong. I saw a behind the scenes video of them. They did pretty much all the fighting for that sword. That was a really good. The choreography in this movie was really good, really good, in my opinion. And how I also saw behind the scenes footage when they're in the dragon with the chunky dragon.
Yes,
which was fucking hilarious.
Yes, them being chased around.
The bit where basically they all get blown off the bridge.
Yeah,
because that was actually, it wasn't the stunt doubles. There's actually a video of all of them getting pulled off the bridge. They all did it for that scene. So props to the cast and everything for getting really involved in the game and everything.
Yeah.
But sorry, you were going to say something, James.
Well, I'm going to ask probably a stupid question. Hopefully it's me mishearing something. One issue I did have, one query I had about that scene right at the end with the dragon, where the whole place explodes because he puts the the light finger up.
Why didn't his finger burn?
Yeah.
Well, no, because that's a magic spell. But why was there an explosion? What was causing?
Oh, the gas from because he couldn't spark the fire, because you kept seeing him throughout the sequence trying to spark fire because he was so fat.
It was
the
him
gas from the dragon.
It was
gas
the
from the dragon. I didn't get that from the
film. It wasn't especially obvious.
That was not explained to me. So that's one thing I think the film could have improved in that scene. So was not obvious.
That's fair. Shots, I get that.
Maybe.
So obviously we've spoken about how the film ends. The heroes win the day, which is obvious.
Yes.
Where would you guys like the films or whatever go next?
So this one did a really good heist story, which I wanted to also say.
Yes, that was quite. Yeah,
I really like the heist elements of it. I thought that was really clever. You want to do something different to that, but I kind of want them. I also want them to try and keep the more kind of like personal stakes, which they had, with the bard and his daughter. So just improvising here and talking until I come up with an idea. I have failed to come up with an idea. So Fergus.
I think the party stays together. Maybe it's a couple of years later the daughter joins the party, because where else she's gonna go? Yeah. Because they're all part of the party.
And she's been training with them.
She's been training. She's got an invisible necklace.
The party's also leveled up, so more skills, more health, more AC, perhaps.
I would like them to do the Curse of Strahd campaign book next.
Okay. See, I kind of wouldn't mind them doing their own story, but
so for me, I think actually we actually touched on this earlier. I think Michelle Rodriguez and Sophia Lillis' character could come into the next one quite well. So how exploring how their characters, because obviously she's been exiled from her horde essentially, or her tribe, and exploring that more, and how and then the daughter coming under the wing and everything. So that there could be an element of how Edgar was dealing with the moral ramifications of Holga and the mother, bringing them back. Michelle Rodriguez's character could be dealing with the ramifications of you could be accepted by the horde again if you just dismissed this girl you've been raising, sort of thing. Or it's Kira, the daughter, trying to prove herself to the horde herself, with Michelle Rodriguez there as well.
I suspect it won't be a plot in of itself, but I suspect it will probably be used as she's got to make this tough decision, but she'll probably pick her friends to save them from.
Could the tribe be attacking another race? So how maybe Holga's tribe is attacking Doric's tribe, and how it's the conflicting thing there.
Maybe. Generally in D&D, kind of high level politics doesn't really come into it in the main. I know I play it kind of like that sometimes, but
unless it's my campaign.
it's normally a group of people. They go from one location to another location. They pick up loot. They level up. They defeat baddies. Occasionally, there's a dragon.
So could it be removing a curse, the next movie? So how this was a heist movie, the next could be removing a curse,
someone
possibly?
Gets a curse.
To be fair, I wouldn't be against what Fergus says, maybe using this for the books as a basis. I just wouldn't want them to do to have that as the only basis, to be have it as some kind of inspiration to it, maybe some of the key plot elements, but I want them to be able to bring enough of their own kind of think of it this way. You can take one of those books like Curse of Strahd, but then put a lot of your own homebrewed elements into it.
So how basically how within Game of Thrones people go, oh, this is going to happen next, this is going to happen next, basically taking the idea of taking the original concept of that but changing it so D&D players can't go, this is going to happen because of this book.
Well, you've got to bear in mind the Curse of Strahd book is a campaign which you can decide how it plays out, roughly. There are probably key milestones, but generally you can play it how you want it.
Yeah. That's like most of the campaigns, to be fair.
Yeah. So, they could do something, well, not completely different, because they would keep the milestones and Strahd would be the baddie and all this sort of thing. But it could play out however the characters best adapt to those situations. So it'll be
I have a question for you both. Let's see. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here now. New races, new characters you'd like to be introduced. Have you ever thought of any actors or actresses or who'd like to be included within the D&D world? Who could fit in quite well within this world?
Rebel Wilson as a cat person.
Okay, because that's already happened, so, and
that's also annoying me because I was trying to remember during the film what's the actual race called of cat people, because they are called something. They are.
I'd have to Google it. I can't remember.
I remember fighting them before when I played Sim of Annihilation, but I can't remember who they're called.
It's not the Khajiit. No, because that's Skyrim.
That's all I was doing as well. Thinking of other franchises with cat people. There is a name for it. I can't remember. You can remember the name for it. # NMI.
At NMI Cast, yeah.
NMI Cast,
Jellicles.
Or I can just go back home and look it up in a book.
I think what we'll do is, though, like when we come to the next episode, the first time we're ever doing this, when we come to the next episode, we're gonna have a leaving question now, essentially a question when we return for the next episode, so people who might be coming off the podcast themselves can understand, or also people who actually email in. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there because I think that's a good way to end it. The question for this week's episode, I think that's actually a nice thing to do. With D&D, if they do a sequel or a spin-off, what race would you like? What story would you like? And what actor or actress would you like playing that character, essentially? Who do you think they could bring in? Now, if you want to do that, email us in at nmipodcastoutlook.com. That's nmipodcastoutlook.com. Or search for us on Twitter and Instagram at nmicast. I want to thank you, my fellow travellers, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me yet again.
Yeah, no, it's been good.
Yeah, and look out for our next episode soon, where we're looking to be doing a continuation of our great sequels, but specifically focusing on video games. We're also possibly looking at doing a retro games episode in the future, though we've had a discussion of what constitutes a retro game nowadays, because
it all depends on how old we want me to feel.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. We'll, if we start with 15 years, that be quite interesting, because that would still mean that the first Dead Space game is classed as a retro game, which is interesting to be honest. Whereas then we could say like the Abe's Odyssey games from PlayStation era, or where Mario and NES and whatnot. It goes much further back than that. But yeah, I think that's a good way to leave it, people. I want to thank Fergus James for joining me again today.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time, everyone. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.